What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. This is a massive update that has come through from Blizzard. This is a huge deal. If you're a Mythic Plus player, this is gonna like change your life. Basically, it's really good what they've done here. I'm gonna go through this whole post that Blizzard just put up like a second ago, and I just did it on stream. If you want like a full breakdown of my live reaction, it's twitch.tv/ZukoVibes. Go check it out. I did a live reaction with chat there. This is going to be a bit more of a condensed version, so I can put it on YouTube for you. Here's what's happening. The goals of the Blizzard team for Mythic Plus are this. They recognize that there's two different versions of players that play Mythic Plus. There's sort of a more casual group, let's call them. Casual is a bad word, but you know what I'm saying. A group that basically just logs into the game and does their keys to fill up their vault and enjoys variety in the Mythic Plus experience, okay? There's another group of people which are like push people. They're going to push keys every single week to the maximum that they possibly can, try to come up with the best team comps, try to get world first, that kind of stuff, okay? So there's two different versions of people who play the game in the Mythic Plus environment, okay? Blizzard understands that. And they realize that the system they have in place right now is like a one-size-fits-all system that doesn't actually fit everybody. It doesn't work very well, okay? So they're going to look to change that in a big way. Let's start with the affixes, and then we'll move to the entire new Mythic Plus system that has kind of been introduced, okay? We're reducing the total number of mechanical affixes on the Keystone for players progressing through the system from 2 to 1. Yes, you heard that correctly. There is no longer going to be tyrannical or fortified plus 2 affixes. There's now only going to be 1 affix. We'll get to what that means in a second. They are also retiring the following affixes from the game. Sanguine, bolstering, raging, bursting are gone. They actually listened to us. Blizzard actually listened to the player base, and they said, we're going to get rid of these now. So those are gone. And there's only 1 affix, remember now. We'll talk about that in a second. Besides tyrannical fortified, there's only 1 affix. We heard your feedback that applying bonuses unevenly to players feels exclusionary regardless of the index. So remember they had these new affixes they were going to introduce called Reckless, Focused, Attune, and Thorn. Affixes that were part of last week's Mythic Keystone test will no longer apply to Keystones. These are also gone. So we were really worried about like, well, this week you're going to have to bring like a mage because it does like arcane damage. And then the next week you're going to need nature damage. That's all gone. That's all gone. Okay. This is insane. Our 1 bucket of active affixes for players progressing through the system offers a variety alongside with positive effects for executing these affixes more evenly. Here's what's going on. We're reintroducing thematic elements to affixes by invoking Xalatath. So what they're saying is they're reintroducing seasonal affixes, but my guess here is that it's going to apply for the entire expansion. So it's not a seasonal affix, it's an expansion affix, if that makes sense. Invoking Xalatath in Mythic Keystones with her own set of affixes. Okay. We're utilizing passive affixes to signpost expected increases in player mastery and commensurate rewards as players progress through the system. Okay, that doesn't really matter. We're going to keep going. We're aiming to eliminate push weeks by providing a consistent challenge that focuses solely on dungeons for players seeking advanced deeper into the Mythic Plus. We'll get to this in a minute as well. But basically what they're saying is for people who are pushing the hardest level of Mythic Plus keys, you're going to have a more consistent experience now up there, and I'll explain why. Here's the new affixes. These are the Xalatath ones, okay? Starting at +2, Xalatath herself will create affixes called Xalatath's Bargain, okay? Here's what it is. There's 2 of them. While in combat, Xalatath rains down orbs of cosmic energy to attempt to empower nearby enemies, increasing their haste and movement speed. If players disrupt these orbs, they claim the effect for themselves. So the idea with this affix is that you're going to have to displace enemies. If there's a group of enemies sitting right here and there's an orb about to hit them all, you're going to want to like Ring of Peace them or high explosive trap them out or Typhoon or grip them away or whatever. You're going to have to use some sort of displacement, I would say, to move those mobs so that they don't get the buff, and then you can get the buff. So then you get bonus damage, bonus something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just increased haste and movement speed. I'm not sure what it is. Here's the second one. Non-boss enemies become frenzied at 30% health remaining, increasing their haste, but also increasing their damage taken. So yes, it's a little bit dangerous because they get more haste, like a lot of haste. But if you can crowd control them, as soon as this happens, right when they get low, you start using your crowd control, then you just get a damage bonus and they're going to die really quickly. So neither one of these seems too difficult, in my opinion. It could potentially need some tuning, who knows. That's at the +2 Keystone level. At the +7 Keystone level, a new affix, Challenger's Peril, directly affects the dungeon timer. This affix emphasizes precise play. Challenger's Peril. Dying subtracts 15 seconds from the remaining time instead of 5. That's a very punishing thing to have happen. But again, it's not adding any weird complication like sanguine or bursting or bolstering, right? So you just have to not die. You need to be careful. Use your defensives. Be a little bit more careful. That's at the +7 level. At the +12 level, a new affix replaces Zalateth's bargain. At this level, Zalateth revokes her bargains and instead just empowers dungeon creatures, giving them 20% more damage and healing. So once you get to the +12 level, you're going to lose these affixes that can give you a positive bonus, but also that have a negative bonus. Those are gone. And instead, all enemies, including bosses, just have 20% more damage and health. Okay? This will all make sense in a minute, I promise. Just stay with me. Fortified and Tyrannical. Blizzard said last week they were going to change Fortified and Tyrannical. We're going to talk about this. Fortified and Tyrannical now serve as milestone affixes that alternate between Keystone levels +4 and +10 on a weekly rotation. So they're no longer just like, as soon as you hit +2 right now, it's either Fortified or Tyrannical. That's not the case anymore. Okay. They are now going to alternate. Here's a map of what it looks like. I'm going to clarify something because they had to clarify this because the wording didn't make any sense. So here's what this is all going to look like. Here's a summary, okay? At Keystone levels +2 to +11, the following affixes apply. +2, you get Zalateth's bargain, okay? That's the little things you're going to, the cosmic stuff, okay? At +4, you're going to get Fortified or Tyrannical. It's going to alternate. So on week 1, you'll have Fortified. On week 2, you'll have Tyrannical at the +4 level. So that's very much the same as it is right now. Okay, very, very similar to what it is now, but it doesn't kick in until level +4. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna turn this off. All right, got some Steam stuff going on. At +7, let me just turn Steam off entirely. There we go. At +7, you're gonna get the Challenger's Peril. That's the 15-second death timer. Okay, very, very bad. And it's also going to include the +4 stuff. Then at +10, you're going to get Tyrannical and Fortified at the same time. This is really important to understand. When they first posted this, they miscommunicated really hard about this. So at +4, you get Fortified or Tyrannical. At +10, you get Fortified and Tyrannical. Okay. Then once you get to +12, you get Fortified, Tyrannical, the 15-second death timer, and 20% more damage and health on the enemies. Now, I've cooked up a little... we were doing this on stream. Here's what you need to understand here. Actually, I'll show you the other thing first, and then we'll get into this. These are what the new affixes are doing, okay? So if you want to think about a +12... +12 is going to look like this now. This +12 thing. You're going to have Fortified plus Tyrannical. All mobs and bosses are going to do 50% more damage and have 50% more health. But there's going to be no RNG. You're also going to have that 15-second death timer. So this is what a +12... The hardest... +12 and above, by the way. The hardest keys you can possibly do in the entire game. You're going to have 50% more damage and health. Fortified and... Which that includes Fortified and Tyrannical, okay? I'm including that. That is what the Fortified plus Tyrannical is doing, okay? So I don't want to make sure that that's... I should just get rid of this. Let's just do that. That makes more sense, okay? Let's just do it that way so you're not confused. Mobs are going to do... Every mob in the entire dungeon, including bosses, will do 50% more damage and have 50% more health. You will have a 15-second death timer, and there's no RNG anymore. There's no Sanguine. There's no Storming. There's no Volcanic. There's no Spiteful. There's no Bolstering. There's none of that. All you're dealing with is mobs that are incredibly difficult to kill and that do way more damage to you. Even the Zalateth stuff is gone at the +12 level. Okay? Let me show you a better chart here. They have it right here. Okay. This is great. It's nice and big. Here's what's happening. At the plus... Okay, let me just go back a little bit. On heroic dungeons, you have none of this. Heroics are kind of like Mythic Zeros, right? And then you do a Mythic Zero dungeon. That's like an old school Mythic plus 10, remember? Now, that you have no affixes there at all. You can get all kinds of gear. It's really nice. Then you get into Mythic Plus, and you start at the +2, and you're going to get those Xalatath bargains. Those are the cosmic things that could potentially buff allies, or enemies, sorry, but can also buff you. And then when enemies get really low on health, they get a bunch of haste, but you get a damage boost. So that's at the +2 mark. That also applies all the way up until you get to the +12 mark. Okay, so this Xalatath's bargain, these that I just mentioned, that's going to be on a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and a 7 and an 8 and a 9 and a 10 and an 11. It goes from 2 to 11. Okay, understand that? Now, once you get to a +4, you're going to add in either fortified or tyrannical. It's going to alternate. I know it only says fortified here, but it's fortified or tyrannical. It'll be week to week. Okay? And that is going to apply until you get to a +10. So now at a +4 and a +5 and a +6 and a 7 and an 8 and a 9, from 4 to 9, you're going to have fortified or tyrannical and Xalatath. Once you get to 7, you add in the 15-second death timer. So now you got 7, 8, 9 are going to have Xalatath, fortified or tyrannical, and Challenger's Peril. That's for those 3 levels, 7, 8, and 9. Okay? Then once you get to 10, you have fortified and tyrannical and Xalatath's bargain and the Challenger's Peril. So you have the original Xalatath's bargain. That applies to a +10, a +11, and that's it. Just these two, +10 and +11. Then once you get to 12, you have fortified tyrannical, and then the new Xalatath's bargain, which is called Xalatath's Guile. That's just 20% more damage and health. So again, this is going to be really challenging, I would say, at the highest level. And even at a +10, I think it's going to be pretty hard. We don't know the loot rewards yet in terms of, like, what we're going to be getting for, like, what's the highest level of key that you should probably do to get the rewards to avoid having to do affixes. My guess right now is that it's a +9. This is just a guess. I don't know this for sure. I'm assuming a +9 will get you, like, a good Mythic Vault reward and is really good for the end of dungeon reward. And then the only reason to do a +10 key would be to get your portals, like we've gotten before. And then the only reason to do a +12 or above is just for the clout. It's just for the name. It's for getting your Radar.io score. It's for getting the world rank #1 on whatever key you're doing, right? That's what that's for now. This is like the Mythic Plus pushing prestige kind of level. So most other players in the game who aren't interested in pushing don't even need to go near this. They don't need to do this at all. They're not going to need to do a +12. They can just stop at a +10 if you want your portals, or stop at a +9 every week if you just want to get loot. That's my guess right now. Okay? Does that all make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. I hope that clears it up for you. Where am I going? Here we go. This new system, I think, is going to, like, dramatically change how we approach Mythic Plus. And there's a couple of really amazing changes here that are happening. Number one, Blizzard actually listened to the player base and changed the entire Mythic Plus system based on our feedback from, like, last week. Literally from last week. They changed everything. They removed all affixes that were annoying. Things like Sanguine and Bolstering and Raging, and we already had gotten rid of Spiteful and Volcanic and Tangling. Like, they're all gone. So the amount of RNG that's in your keys now is significantly lower than it was before. You're basically just dealing with these Xalatath bonuses, and that's it. Everything else is just health and damage increases on the monsters. That means that from every single week is going to be a lot more consistent. You won't have to worry about, oh my god, I gotta change all my talents to, like, be able to get out of Entangling. I gotta move over here to get something to help with Afflicted, or Incorp. I gotta change all my talents to get help with Incorp. You don't have to worry about any of that anymore. It's just the Xalatath things and then damage and health increases, and that's it. I think that's a major win, and it's coming off the back of Blizzard listening to the player base, and that is a huge deal. I cannot stress enough how big that is. Okay? The other big part of this that's going to be really good for the player base is that it's going to separate the players that really want to push deep into a season versus the players that are a little bit more chill and kind of just want to fill out their vault. Does that make sense? I go here. Here it is. So the players that really want to push, they're going to do all their keys with the rest of us in the early part of the season, and then they're going to quickly push past the plus 10 level, and they're going to get to just live in this really advanced, difficult plus 12 and above level where the mobs are doing 50% more damage than 50%, but they can plan for that. They can make strategies for that, and there's no more RNG for these guys in terms of sanguine and bolstering and all this garbage. They don't have to worry about that. It's amazing for people who want to push keys. It's also amazing for the people who just want to fill their vault or who don't want to get involved in this really insane, difficult key pushing thing. Maybe you just want to get your portals for the season. You can do that down here, and you just have to deal with a couple of Xalatath things and then either fortified or tyrannical, or of course both once you get to the plus 10 level. So I think overall, this is really good for both sets of players. And that is the goal that Blizzard was trying to achieve, was to make sure that both sets had the correct, there was good for both. I don't know why. I guess I lost my other thing there. Anyway, this is really, really good. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this in the comments down below. I'm going to clarify this one more time in terms of how this works, because this was very confusing for us on stream. So, +2, the new Xalatath things, right? The cosmic stuff raining from the ground, the enemies getting enraged, essentially getting a bunch of haste, but if you can crowd control them, and they take a damage bonus. Okay, that's +2. That +2 persists until you get to +11, so all the way. Okay, at +4 you get fortified or tyrannical. It's one or the other. Okay, and then the fortified or tyrannical persists until +9 when you get both. At 7, you get the Challenger's Burden, which is the 15 seconds of death timers. You really don't want to die. That's going to persist until that actually persists forever. That keeps going forever, the entire thing. Okay. Then at +10, that key level, you're going to be getting tyrannical and fortified and the Challenger's Burden and the Xalatath stuff. Okay. For 10 plus 11. Then at +12, you have fortified tyrannical, Challenger's Burden, and then a new Xalatath's Guile, which is just 20% flat health and damage to all monsters and bosses in the dungeons. So very, very difficult. Okay, that's what it looks like. That's the progression. That's what you've got now. What do you think in the comments down below about this new system? I think this is a massive W for Blizzard. I also think it's a massive W for the community, because Blizzard actually listened to us and got rid of all the affixes that we hated. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much again for watching. Love you all. I'll see you in the next one.